Hello, it is I, Elle-C. Good evening and welcome to episode 7 of Elle's Bedtime Stories, The Blackbird. The Blackbird is a retelling of the very first short story I ever made. I wrote it when I was 7 to 8 years old, but I did rewrite it as an adult. But right now I'm a loli. But it's okay. Just deal with it. With that said, here is The Blackbird. Flickering. A haze of gray, blue, no, purple. I started counting. 10, 11, 12, 15 faint flickers of light, fluctuating faintly in the distance. My late nights were wasted away in this manner. Sometimes it would take me hours on end, until I felt satisfied. There is no real meaning to this nightly routine. It was something that I decided to do one day, and have been doing ever since. It was as if I was trying to give significance to this insignificant action through daily repetition. And believing in this sophomoric theory, I would go out, take 3 steps away from the worn-out mat of the front door of the house, and stare mindlessly at the night sky. An imperfect, starlit sky with clouds constantly obscuring the faint white specks from my vision. It was from this useless gesture that I gradually began to develop an interest for aircraft. It wasn't much, really. I was never a person with strong desires. It's just that the annoying buzz of low-flying planes always snapped me back to reality during my nightly escapades. Back then, our house must have been only a few kilometers away from the local airport. Thus, the constant buzzing of low-flying aircraft, even at night. A few things have changed since then. Most notably, I no longer hear the low-flying aircraft at night. After all, the new airport is a few hundred kilometers away. Maybe even 1,000? Also, I'm older now. But in hindsight, I always wonder, just how much has that mischievous little boy from back then really grown? The Blackbird. It was the U.S. Army's ultimate stealth weapon. At least that's how I've always remembered it. The SR-71. The fastest plane in the world, capable of traveling at 5 times the speed of sound. Surely that was fast. I mean, sound travels at 1,236 kilometers per hour, and this plane could move at 5 times that speed. I made sure to grab that information off of my personal encyclopedia set. Furthermore, parts of its engine were made with gold plating, and its unique aerodynamic design also made it invisible to conventional radar technology. For me, it was the coolest plane of its time. Perhaps the coolest plane ever. It was summer when I first came across this plane, when it was featured in a short 3-page article inside a monthly general interest magazine that my parents had subscribed to. My childhood days were spent with my 2 neighbors and classmates, Joey and Michael. Joey was lean and tall for his age, while Michael was a bit on the pudgy side. Watching them standing side by side, their silhouettes looked like the number 10 or 01, depending on their positions. We'd usually play all kinds of games all day by a grassy field just a few blocks away from my house. Joey, as is to be expected from his tall frame, was the fastest runner among us. I came in a far second, while Michael was always dead last. But this was only in a straight race, Usually, one might think that Joey was the most formidable at tag, but that's just useless stereotyping. Tag is serious business. Well, it was for us at least. And of course, idealized as my memories may have become, I was pretty sure that I was the ace tag player of our little group. Think about it. The cheetah is the fastest land animal, and it easily exceeds its prey's top speed at only 50 miles per hour, while the cheetah can run up to 75 miles per hour. But how often does it get a gazelle kill? In case you never watched nature programs on cable TV, let's just say it's not very often. Just enough to survive, and they usually prey on the estranged members of the herd. This is an appropriate analogy to justify why I'm better than Joey at tag. See, it's all in agility. Joey's thin build never allowed him to make quick turns like I could, and I was faster at quick bursts of speed rather than a sustained run. As for Michael, well, he's good at chess. Yeah, that's it. He's good at chess. Joey was a de facto leader of our group of three. I didn't really care about stuff like leadership and rules, and Michael was always too timid to oppose anything anyone says. Still, I felt that I was the most well-informed out of all of us. After all, I was the only one with access to cable TV and expensive encyclopedias. Surely, I was a genius compared to my two playmates. Taking my natural place in our trio, I made sure to periodically memorize bits of trivia to impress my friends. My flavor of the month at that time was, of course, the Blackbird. Admittedly, I was always imprecise in handing out information, and I had one wild imagination. Thus, the fabled Blackbird always had a different twist to it with each tale I told. Sometimes I'd claim it had a nuclear fusion engine, even though I had only the faintest idea of what a nuclear engine might be. The number of times it could circle the globe in a minute increased exponentially from 2 to 4 to 6 until I finally settled down at 12. Fortunately, Joey and Michael didn't seem to mind very much. Maybe they even liked it. At the very least, they never complained about my tall tales. It was already in the middle of April when we found that place. It was a Friday, and we just about played ourselves to death and were getting tired as well as bored of our little three-person games. As an encore, we decided to have one round of hide and seek. We decided on who would be it with rock, paper, scissors. Michael lost, unfortunately for him. I ran a few meters away from the acacia tree where Michael was counting and stopped to catch my breath. I checked my wristwatch. It was 4:24 p.m. Still plenty of time until my curfew at 5. Since this was the last game, I thought about being a bit more adventurous with my hiding place. I ran straight ahead, beyond a small mound that just about obscured me from Michael's line of sight from the acacia tree. Then I made a sharp turn to my right. Joey had gone in another direction, so I had my planned hiding place all to myself. I ran as fast as I could to beat Michael's count. My destination was the abandoned building just beyond the clearing. We were all familiar with the place, but I doubt anyone would think I'd choose it as my hiding place. It looked like it might have been some kind of commercial establishment. It was about 3 floors high, and there were all sorts of rusted junk lying around inside it. Not to mention that it looked like it might be haunted from the outside. The sky just seemed to take on an unnaturally dark hue whenever you stepped within the vicinity of the building. I was more than a little reluctant to actually step inside. Once I was actually in front of it, there was a certain morbid, melancholic air about it. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but it felt as if there was an invisible barrier separating the building from the outside world. Like its world was enclosed within the few hundred square kilometers of space that it stood on. Meters of space that it stood on. But I'd come that far, so there was no way I was going back now. Once I've made up my mind to do something, I'll go through with it, even if it's an obviously stupid idea. Making my resolve, I cautiously entered the dilapidated building. There was enough light filtering through the cracks in its walls and the glassless windows for me to see where I was going. There was debris everywhere, but thankfully they hadn't made the stairs impassable. I ran up to the second floor and peered out of one of the bare windows. I had fun pretending to be some kind of lookout or some sniper waiting for my target to wander into my line of sight. Creak! Yeah! I was startled by a weird creaking sound. Thoughts of ghosts and malignant lower beings from local folklore ran across my mind. I turned around slowly to the source of the sound. Two glowing green eyes greeted me about a yard away from where I was crouching. A cat? Sure, I knew that it was a cat right away. Or did I? I think it might have been nothing more than the jitters, considering where I was. But I was actually feeling a little scared of that cat. Its fur was extremely white. I could tell even with just the dim lighting in the room I was in. I remembered the tales of animal spirits that pretended to be ordinary stray cats. They could change their size at will, from a normal size to 20-foot-high monsters. Some versions of the tale even say that they could speak and understand human language. For a rational adult, maybe it would be pretty funny if a cat suddenly spoke. The jaded adult mind isn't as likely to accept something like that so easily. As a child, however, I would have been totally freaked out. In fact, I was already freaked out enough just from seeing the cat and making wild speculations in my mind that I ran away in the opposite direction. Cold shivers ran down my spine, and my movements felt totally uncoordinated. But I was running away from that evil cat spirit. Before I knew it, I'd reached the third floor. I'd put in enough distance between myself and the cat to have time to catch my breath and regain my composure. I held my breath and listened for any suspicious sounds. There were none. The sound of the shrill cicadas, drowning out all sound except their own outside, was a welcome respite for me. Huh? Something in the corner of the room caught my attention. It was a sleek, black plastic box on top of a wobbly-looking table. Curious, I walked towards it for a closer look. It looked so shiny and new that it seemed out of place from its surroundings. I took a deep breath and muttered a prayer to some god of protection who might save me from opening a cursed box of unknown evil, and slowly I lifted the lid open. When I looked inside, what I saw totally took my breath away, in a good way. Inside, I saw a perfect replica of my dream plane, the Blackbird. I took it out excitedly. It was a remote-controlled model of the Blackbird. It looked exactly like the real thing, based on the magazine. I flipped the switch on top of it, and it was amazing. Blue lights lit up from its windows, and it began to emit a powerful sound like the roar of a jet engine. Hey, Jerry! You in there? Oh. Joey's booming voice startled me out of my stupor. Hey guys! Yeah, I shouted back at Joey and Michael from the third floor window. It seems they'd gotten tired of waiting for me to come out and decided to look for me. I guess my hiding place was too good. "Oh man, I can't believe this guy," Michael muttered. "I told you he was crazy enough to actually try hiding in there." Joey answered in an intentionally loud voice to make sure I heard him. "Whatever. Anyway, I found something interesting. You guys, here, I'll take it down with me." With my friends around, my courage increased tenfold. I casually strolled past the stray cat who was still hanging around the second floor. I wasn't scared anymore. I mean, who would be scared of some common house cat? That's just so childish and uncool. A few moments later... Whoa! Joey and Michael exclaimed in unison. "Awesome, isn't it?" I beamed with pride. "But why was it in there?" Michael asked earnestly. I glared at him. "Dude, I don't care. That building's just about to collapse anyway. Maybe someone who used to live in there left it. The important thing is that I found it. And it's all mine, ours now." "Sure, Jerry, sure. Just chill, man." "Oh, sorry. Anyway, let's try it out tomorrow. Are there batteries in that thing?" Joey broke the tension. "Yep, I tried it out earlier," I nodded. "Okay then, it's getting late, so we might as well call it a day," said Joey. "Yeah, see you tomorrow, guys," I replied. We spent the next few days taking turns flying the Blackbird, and it was such an amazing toy that we never got bored with it. At that time, model planes that actually flew just didn't exist where I lived. The most sophisticated ones had flashing lights and pre-recorded sound effects, but none of them could zoom up in the air like the Blackbird. Soon, though, trouble arose. I guess it was to be expected of playful little boys, but we couldn't agree on how long each of us got to fly the plane anymore. Joey, who had the biggest allowance among us, and thus contributed the largest share when we needed to buy new batteries, insisted that he gets top priority. Of course, Michael and I had our own alibis. Mine was simple. I was the one who found it. As for Michael, he reasoned out that he's always the underdog in all of our games, so he should get to do the flying at least once. It wasn't long before the discussion turned into an argument, and it wasn't long before the argument turned into a shouting match. Eventually, it became an all-out fistfight. In the end, I ran away from the fight, clutching my precious Blackbird, kept securely inside its box, to my chest. Joey and Michael were probably shouting something at me, but I couldn't hear them. No, I refused to listen to them. That night, I felt really empty. I ate little for dinner, just enough not to make Mom suspicious. I stared at the block box that I'd taken from that building. Opening it, I took out my prized possession, the Blackbird. "I hope you're happy. I just lost 2 of my best friends today, thanks to you." Even though I'd said this, I didn't feel that my actions were wrong at that time. At least I didn't want them to be. And as if to prove this, I cuddled the model plane lovingly, and began admiring its intricate design and workmanship. That's when I noticed it. On the belly of the plane, there were some scratches, coarse handwriting scratches, on the otherwise flawless plastic. I I squinted and began to read. Dear God, I know I have been a very bad boy. That's why my daddy is not coming home anymore. I promise to do good and not sin forever and ever. Please bring Daddy home soon. I am returning this beautiful plane that you gave me. In exchange, I want my daddy to come back. Dear God, I believe in you and your Son, Jesus Christ, and Mama Mary. And I stopped reading at this point. I didn't need to read anymore. In my heart, I felt a strange tugging pain. At that time, I couldn't claim to have understood all the implications of that message. But somehow, some part of me knew that I'd probably done someone an injustice, that I had defiled the pure wishes of a boy who wanted his father back. Somehow, I knew that it was a pointless gesture. Putting that plane inside the building wasn't going to do anything except invite other people to take it home with them. This was something beyond reason, though. I just knew deep in my heart that I had to return this plane to its proper place. If I was to make peace with Joey and Michael, if I was to make peace with myself. I couldn't wait for morning. Using the tree next to my bedroom window as a stepladder, I sneaked out of the house and ran straight for the dilapidated building. I didn't know if I would have the courage to put it back in there, but I had to. If I wanted to clear my conscience, there was no way I wouldn't make it there. A little surprise was waiting for me when I finally made it there. In the middle of the night, Joey and Michael were waiting for me, just outside the building, with flashlights and wide grins on their faces. What are you guys doing here? Don't ever try to become a ninja, Jerry. Your footsteps are about as sneaky as an elephant, said Joey. Joey saw you running through the field from his house. He woke me up in the middle of the night just to tell me, added Michael. We tried to put two and two together and thought you might go here. And here you are. Afterwards, I showed them the message, etched into the plane, and we all decided to place it back into the building for good. There were no regrets. Well, apart from taking a scary trip into the third floor, armed only with flashlights. The cat was still there too. It might really have been some kind of spirit. In the end, it might have been a pretty useless gesture as well. The building was on the verge of collapse. It was roped off and demolished forever, within a week after our escapade. Of course, this means that the Blackbird was crushed into powder along with it. It's been more than a decade since that time. Still, not much has changed since then. I'm still a little boy at heart. That's what I'd like to believe. Sometimes, when I look to the sky, I remember their smiles and our boisterous, unrestrained laughter while we ran without a care through that grassy field. Sighing, I looked up at the stars once again. There is no real meaning to this nightly routine. It was something that I decided to do one day and have been doing ever since. It was as if I was trying to give significance to this insignificant action through daily repetition. Whenever I look back to how we resolved to place a Blackbird back where I'd found it, I realized that there was no real meaning to that act either. It's like life, I suppose. There are no significant meanings to a lot of things that happen to us. I looked to the night sky once again. I smiled. Joey went to the States the summer after that incident. And Michael, well, he eventually became a priest. But those things are totally insignificant to me at this point. because no matter how much we may have seemed to change, we were still just the same rowdy group of little boys who used to play in that grassy field together. Just 3 friends. The end. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I will see you again next time when I decide to record another one of Elle-C's bedtime stories. With that said, I bid you good night. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. I'm a cute little girl with a jaded face. Elle is my name and 13 is my age. I'm not just a lolly and that's a fact. I'll praise and cheer for all your super chats. Please subscribe.